spent a good time listening to the TED Talk of Maria. And I will tell you a little bit more about Maria. So the TED Talk was about the medicine of chaos. And it was about that the changing of the environment, instead of changing the people, is something that is quite positive in organization. It's almost like there is a self-organization, a self-expectation, this link with the theory of chaos. It was quite interesting because while it might seem counterintuitive that there is still a growing evidence to suggest a correlation between chaos theory and positive performance in corporations. So you know me already. I'm a geek. I love maths. I love science. And when I heard this interesting and inspiring TED Talk, then I was thinking about all the implications behind. So chaos theories recognizes that systems are inherently unpredictable and complex. So this encourages organizations to move away from the rigidity and linear thinking and embrace flexibility and experimentations. There is another side that chaos theory highlights the interconnectedness of systems, encouraging organizations to build strong relationships and networks, both internally and externally, in order to survive. And then there is the third topic that came to my mind is about that chaos theory suggests that complex systems often benefit from decentralized control. Wow. This empowers individuals and teams to make decisions closer to the point of action, leading to faster responses and greater agility. Let me tell you about the person who made this TED Talk. Is Maria, parenthesis, Purulis, I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly, Carpenter. She is a Cypriot-South African strategist with a diverse career background, studying in software development, management consulting, executive leadership, and entrepreneurship. She has led international tech teams, built and managed large teams of technologies, and developed a unique framework for transforming team dynamics and achieving business success. I think that we are going to be discussing about that, right, Maria?
Mm-hmm.
Maria, it's lovely to have you as a guest because, as I mentioned, I love these topics where you have a correlations between mathematical theories and something that where we don't see clearly the correlation and the organizational strategies that can happen in the workplace. And I wanted to know a little bit more about the topic. So I got a little bit excited about the topic. And I wanted to understand, so in your own words, what is chaos? That's already something in order to align everybody. And what is the common misunderstandings that people have about chaos?
Thank you. Thanks, Evan. Thanks for having me on the show. And I do love your energy. And we're going to be talking a lot about energy today and the impact of energy. So in my words, chaos, it's all about disorder and not having flow. And the way I've seen organizations express chaos, and I think there's a negative connotation with chaos. It must be fixed. There's chaos. We're lacking order. It must be fixed. But there is order in the chaos. And when you leave the chaotic, what appears to be chaotic, when you leave it alone and let it settle, what you will find is that often, I would love to say always, but often, the elements and the variables that seem very chaotic, which are typically people in corporate organizations, and decision-making, flow, if you have the right environment, they will self-regulate and order will come. And it will come naturally. And one of the concepts that I use a lot is natural order. And you haven't mentioned it. So there is a natural order. There is a natural flow state. We all have it. And everything in nature has it. And the reason that it's so easy to see in nature, it is my belief, is that nature is clear about its purpose. I believe we are from nature too. But the difference between us and everybody else, everything else in nature, is that we have choice and imagination, unlike all the other elements in nature. And so that makes us confused as to our purpose. And that's where we get the lack of clarity. Whereas nature knows exactly what to do. If I'm a tree, I grow. That's what I do. and I grow towards the sun. So if there's another tree and there's a shadow, I'm going to try and avoid that shadow and make it up to the sun. That's my purpose. I'm going to do that. There's no confusion. I'm going to grow, Ivan. That's my point. But as a human, I have all this potential and all these options in front of me. And with all those options and all the potential in front of me, I can become so dysregulated because I'm so confused. What should I do? I don't know. Which path should I take? I don't know. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do what that person's doing. Maybe. And when we try and fix that, I mean, I can even see it with my kids, with choosing what subjects they must do in high school, with my nephews and nieces, what they should be studying when they finish school, and then what they should do, which company should they work for, and which corporate, what's the best route for me, Maria? Tell me, what is my best route to financial success at 18 years old? I'm like, okay, well, there's so many options. How do you distill the options down to what is right for me? And in that moment of overwhelm, it does feel like chaos. So the way we perceive chaos often is with a negative lens. It must be fixed. You must get order. You must bring it back down to camp. There must be order. Otherwise, I can't survive. Whereas there is another way to look at chaos. This is opportunity. This is now the true transformation chapter in your life, or in the organization's a chapter in the or a page in a chapter of the transformation journey of the organization. Because when there's chaos, what I say in my TED talk, I explain there's nothing to lose, because there's just so much. So now in the state of so muchness, I really just want to hang my hat on something, or I need something solid to step on. I am willing to change, to experience that solidness, to get that foundation. And therefore, in that state of willingness, I now see more options that I couldn't see before, and the right option will appear. But you have to follow a process to get there.
This is a point. In fact, you caught my next question, because I was thinking, so when in organizations, very often we use process to create order. But I have the impression that in your case, in your framework, process is not equal, less control where things are going. So it's not the opposition of chaos. A little bit more about that.
So my starting point, whether it is for an organization or a team, just a team or the entire organization, or just an individual, is always, it's a question. And the experience is clarity. So the outcome is always clarity, but the question is, what do you want? What do you want and why? Now, when there is that clarity, the process, so when it comes to agile transformations, have you ever worked in technology?
Yeah, in fact, that's part of my job.
In fact, yes. So do you know agile versus waterfall?
Yep.
So the Agile Manifesto, Agile Transformations, why do some teams get it right so easily and some don't? Why can some teams self-direct, self-organize, self-everything? Others don't. Almost every single time, it's clarity. In the absence of clarity, your chaos will endure and it will go badly. When there is clarity, the chaos will settle and you will get the outcome that you're looking for. It might not look, the process might not look the way you demand it should look and the way you expect it to look, but you will get what you want. But if you don't know what you want and it's not clear, and the organization doesn't know what you want and they're not clear, you can't expect the outcome that you're after. So in the absence of clarity, you don't get the results that you're looking for. And this comes, I mean, and it's such clarity. I mean, clarity is delicious. When you are clear, you know exactly what you want and why you want it. You're able to wake up in the morning and you can endure any hardship because you've got a why, right? It's your purpose, your values. Now, as an organization, having a value or having a purpose that is profit driven, you know the story, Evan. It doesn't have longevity and it's not exciting with endurance. So the longevity of profit, there's too many ups and downs in the market. So you are going to lose people, you will lose their focus and their excitement. But when your purpose is, you know what we want, and it is so clear and it's broken down into manageable chunks, like OKRs is a wonderful tool. I love OKRs because they can be brought down into quarters And so people can actually see what they're doing, and OKRs manages process, which is so lovely. If you do it my way, if Maria's there, OKRs, you've got process rather than specific outcome. So you've got one KPI versus an OKR, but we can chat about that. Or I could see on your face, you're like, no, I don't quite agree with that, but okay. Let me tell you, with an OKR process,
I do. I was just thinking about something else. I definitely love OKRs, by the way.
Yes. Okay, great. So for me, I love process. So what you said earlier around, you think that when I speak about process, it might not be the same as everybody else, and organizations are like, I got this impression the way you said it, it was like they're almost on top of their stuff. I follow this process, and where's your SOPs? And okay, I think those are very important. They are great and they're important, but they're not everything because they can be changed. So having Greek descent, everything about a Greek is exceptions. So if you ever flew Olympic Airways, you stand in a line, that's a guideline for everybody else. You can go straight to the front because that's, okay. The outcome is we all want to get on the plane, and you will get on the plane. But it's important to know the rules so that you can, just like with the Agile Manifesto, you can know how to bend them rather than break them. And so with process, great to know this is how you do it. And when you're tired, it's really nice having something to fall back on. That's exactly how I'm going to do it. But ultimately, when you are following Agile principles to the T, the principle will tell you that you are looking for incremental improvements on a sprint by sprint basis. So whatever your cadence is, you want to improve just 1 to 2% improvements every sprint. And for me to do that, I might have to bend the rules a bit. But I do that knowing what I want and why. It's always about the goal. And I am so clear. And my team is so clear, and they trust me. They trust that I am clear. I trust that they're clear. And so whatever I'm doing, they're not going, what are you doing, Maria? Like, you're breaking the rules here. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're irritating me. And I'm like, we don't do that in an environment of trust and an environment of clarity. Because we trust that at the end, if she's stuffed up, don't worry, we're going to have a retro, we're going to talk about it, and we can say, you should have done this, you should have done that. And when I talk about Agile, I'm not in a software development team. Okay, right now I'm managing a game development company, and developing ways of work for a game development company. But I am not a software developer. I'm not a product owner. I'm not actually in a team that works on Scrum, but I love those principles, and I use those principles with managers. Even when I do programs, I've got mentorship programs that I run with women. That's a group of women working with me for X period of time. And I make them do YTOs on a daily basis. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What are your obstacles? And I tell them, I say, these are principles in software development. And eventually they love them. Because what is it doing? It's holding yourself accountable. And understanding why you do what you do. That's where companies go a bit wrong with process, where they over-process everything. Let people understand why they are doing that process first. Make sure that is clear. Because then they'll come up with better processes. There's always a better way. Always, always, always. But if I'm just following your instructions without applying myself, I'm going to just follow your instructions without applying myself. You want me to be creative and to feel that I'm free to be creative. I feel like we're covering a lot of different topics at the same time.
But I love it. I love it.
Okay, good.
You know what you made me think is that it's almost very hard for human beings to think about outcomes. I love this word, outcomes, and you have used that during your speech. And we get formatted by our parents. What do you want to be? We go to the to our corporate and we discuss about smart goals. And smart goals, it looks like a fixed ending. And outcomes is what do you want to get out of that stuff? And we almost never use that. In my corporate life, OKRs were never used. So talking about outcomes were never used. And that's it. And I finished my corporate life only 5 years ago. And I don't think that the evolution has made them suddenly use something else. And I was in a big corporation. It's like we are formatted to think about the goal, a measurable, very smart goal, and then that doesn't give us options. A little bit like the example you say, I want to be rich. That's for our kids. They mention that. I have my daughter who has mentioned that. And then you start doing to develop a little bit the sense of accountability about what does it mean. So why do you want to be rich? And then only when they have understood the why, they get into
and so what?
stage of outcome. And that is difficult for I wish, but until not so long time ago, I was based on these bloody smart goals that today I hate.
That's very funny. I had a manager who brought it into a very big, massive department, and it was a 3-year SMART process. Oof, the jokes about what is really smart. That acronym has been used, a bit too liberally. But it is interesting about outcomes and goal, and yet, at the same time, even though your career ended 5 years ago, at the same time, throughout your life, I bet you've heard, it's all about the journey, Ivan. It's all about life is a journey, not a destination. So we know that, but then we don't apply it in corporate. So you can't be all about the deadline, the milestone, the launch, the delivery. You can't, because something like COVID hits, and now the organization is in the shit because now it's complete chaos. Now what are you going to do?
Exactly.
But if you've been working on process, and if you have been building a capability of people who understand how they operate together, and you have the environment, this healthy, beautiful environment where people know, okay, I don't know what my leader's about to do because this is unprecedented, but I trust my leader and I trust my colleagues. And I know that whatever happens, we're going to work through this systematically, as we always do, and we will get to an ending of this particular sprint. We don't know how long this sprint's going to last either. It was supposed to be 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks to flatten the curve.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let me dig a little bit more and go into this. I still have the image, by the way, Maria, of the example that you gave in your TED Talk with the birds. So it is very difficult to predict the movement of one single bird, but when they are all together, a lion is almost like a dance that has order, but one alone is super chaos. Bringing back this idea of order, and I wanted to understand, is there a specific, a tangible way for organizations to help people to embrace this unpredictability in order that they become more innovative? Because everybody, Maria, the truth is that there is 1,000 books about that, and some of them I have read, and it is not fucking clear. So what can you tell me about that?
There's only one way. I have the answer, Ivan. Are you ready? You don't need to read those books. I have the answer, but you might not like it. So the answer is the way organizations can help their employees, their team members, to best equip them, and to ensure the sustainability of the company and the sustainability of profits and blah, 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 blah. There's only one way. And that way is to create an environment of self-awareness. So there is, but not a light, just a little bit of, everybody gets a little gift from the company. It's a little mirror. And the mirror says feedback is a gift. Like, I'm not talking blah, I mean, I got one of those. Or you're going to get a little Enneagram activity or Gallo or I don't know, some strengths find, I don't know. And you all meet and you're like, wow, this is such interesting stuff. And this is interesting. And then you carry on with your lives. I'm not talking about these little events that companies introduce. And even when a leader within a specific division does their utmost to bring in some of those tools, which are very helpful. I do want to be clear, those tools are very helpful, but not when they're alone and they're isolated. When the entire organization takes on an environment where we want our team to feel like they're adults, okay, they're appreciated, but also we want them to experience a world and a life where they take responsibility for self. Now, there are very few organizations that get this right. They're not big corporates. Big corporates, they really struggle with this, and human beings struggle with this in general. But Evan, it comes down to understanding that when you hate work, if you are 20, this might be your first job, you have an opportunity to ask yourself, what is it about this job that I hate? If you are 30, it is not the first time that you have hated work. If you are 40, it definitely is not the first time that you hate your boss, you hate the route, the commute, and you find yourself sitting in your car in the parking, wishing for a different life. And I can almost guarantee you that you sometimes wish for a different partner and a entire different life situation. But all of this it's linked. It's always about you. So what's coming up at work, however, the discomfort that you feel as an individual, that is it's a clue as to what you can clear in your emotional state of being. And you can use it as an opportunity to find greater joy in life. And the same thing that whatever's happening at home. But I love working with people at work and helping organizations do this transformation, because at work, you have a professional, there's typically a level of professionalism. So when somebody irritates you, you are in a position to resolve it maturely, unlike in a home situation. Home situations, it's super volatile. It's really hard. People don't treat each other with respect, and you don't have the kind of boundaries that you expect in a professional setting. And so you are able to do so much self-work at work. It's absolutely amazing. I really love this work. But what I found is that it always needs to start from the leader. So it's the CEO and the C-suite execs. It's very difficult when it's mainly men. It's not a gender bias, so it was just fact. I work with men and women. Women tend to, and women, it's not great working with just women. It's great working with both men and women together. But when it's a purely male executive team, very difficult. There's a lot of posing that happens amongst themselves, big egos with each other. It's like so bizarre. They're running a company and they're so competitive with each other. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, cool. Whereas when they have a feminine influence, it becomes more about humans and people, less about the profits. But Evan, the CEO and the CEO's self-awareness, their level of self-awareness will always be reflected in the culture of the organization. It's fascinating. So if nobody else does any work on themselves but the CEO, you will change the company. Isn't that powerful?
It is. It is. And many corporations think that it's not that important, the role modeling effect, because we, as humans, in order to survive in the corporations, we don't follow the rules that are expressed in a website. We follow who is the more powerful, the behaviors of the more powerful in order to survive. So it doesn't matter what he says, what comes out of his mouth is what he does that we follow.
Yes. And I've been in organizations. That's actually very interesting, because I was in corporate banking in my 20s, corporate and investment banking. The investment bankers, they know how to party. And so when your CEO is smashed out of his mind and running onto the dance floor between people's legs, diving on the floor, and this guy is a multi-millionaire back in the early 2000s. And and you're thinking, so this is what I need to do. So this is what I need to do. Okay. Very interesting.
You have used a very powerful word, which is self-awareness. But let's be realistic. Let's estimate 1% of corporations have any program to develop self-awareness on their employees. It's one of the things that nobody wants to invest, because they tell you that's the thing that you do at home.
Yeah.
We are not going to pay for it. They don't see the outcome. While I am 100% with you that without self-awareness, you cannot take accountability, because you don't know what you enjoy, like, or what is going to be your final outcome. You don't even understand. You do. So creating a program that helps people to create a mental process to ask the right questions and create a routine out of that, because self-awareness is not like, as you said, either a one-off event or a one-day training where I write down everything that I want to be, a mapping of the person that I want to be. It's not enough, because we have to maintain, because we change, we evolve. There is evolution.
We forget.
There is external factors, and it's a little bit like an agile way. In fact, it's not, you have to iterate many times in order to get it right.
Yeah.
So nobody's investing. So Maria, so you are proposing self-awareness as one of the milestones, but nobody's paying attention. And that's sad.
Well, I think a lot more people are paying attention than we know, than we realize. There is a movement in America, and it's a beautiful movement. America's so big. That's the thing. So like you don't get to see it unless you're in it. There is a big movement in Austin, Texas, and it's all over. It's all over America, but I have acquaintances. I've got friends in Austin. And so I've watched it and I've seen how it is. And actually it's you can't stop the evolution of humanity. And as a species, the collective changed during COVID. It was pre-COVID, but COVID was massive. It was a fast track to the collective going, holy shit, I really don't like this. I don't like the way life's going. And I never liked going to work. I mean, a few of us, it was hilarious, because I remember going to work and saying, it wasn't going, it was from my bedroom, dialing in. And somebody said, I think it's my fault that COVID happened, because I hate work and I never wanted to come back to the office. And I was like, no, that was my fault. I wished it. And we were all wishing for it. We all wished for, wouldn't it be nice to just be allowed to work from home? Okay, then 2 years in, we were like, we've changed our minds. We don't want to work from home. No, not like this, not like this. But everybody had to regroup and relook at their lives. There were a lot of divorces just in my team. So I had over 200 people working for me. Within the first 6 weeks, 3 people separated from their partners. In just 200 people, 3 separated, because it was so intense. All the things that were irritating them about each other as partners, now they were living with them 24/7 and they couldn't hide.
Yep.
And so that was a very dramatic and quite a tangible, that's pretty clear. You guys weren't working out and now you are forced to separate. But that's just one type of example. All of this rethinking and relooking at life happened. Whereas before COVID, you needed a divorce, you needed a death that you were grieving, you needed a life event to trigger some kind of self-reflection. We were all forced into the self-reflection thanks to COVID. And that's what I think it's the biggest difference to what's happening in corporate now. A lot of individuals started by themselves doing their own work, but a lot of the execs started too. A lot. And it takes time, Evan, because it's not overnight. Because I would have thought after COVID, everybody would have been like, I'm a different person. I don't want to do this anymore. I refuse to be a dick at work. And actually, I want to spend more time with my kids, and I want to be more present, and I don't want to be on my device, and I don't want to work. It hasn't happened quite like that, but it is happening. So there are definite changes. And even in South Africa, the vernacular of organizations has changed. So when I'm communicating transformation and I'm with a team and I'm speaking about this, people often talk about their feelings. That was unheard of 10 years ago in corporate. I mean, some people, they roll their eyes maybe a little bit still to this day, but they are few and far between, whereas before they were the norm. So it is changing, but the biggest change comes back to the leader. Leaders have changed. So leaders are human beings, and all human beings suffered loss during COVID. They lost somebody, and a lot of us are still grieving. In fact, I think most of humanity is still grieving, and don't underestimate the power of grief. And grief, it can be quick, the effects of grief, or it can take some time, but we don't even know where the dust is going to land and will settle from what we've been through. I think it's going to be quite beautiful. I think you can't stop this change. It's happening.
Indeed. And you mentioned something that it is totally true, and I was trying just to be cynical with my question. It is that small companies, well, they are not that small, the one that I'm thinking of, have invested into doing programs of self-awareness. It came to my mind, this beautiful program that Google developed called Search Inside Yourself, which is also a book, by the way. It is about self-awareness. It is about emotional intelligence. And it was written by a geek like us, who understands science behind, who wasn't telling us about chakras, who was telling us about the science behind the brain and why, in a way that tech people at Google can understand it. So the book was beautiful. I haven't attended the training, but
I'd love to know the impact, if they were able to measure it.
There might be something, because I was looking for it, and I don't know if I found it or not, because it was like 3 years ago that I was looking for some impact. Now it is like a full organization who has taken over, who is outside of Google, who has taken over the rights to train others on this Google thing, because it was a Google employee who produced the book and produced the methodology. And there might be, but I don't remember if I found it. Let's get back to our questions, because we are swimming in a lot of interesting information about chaos, innovation, self-awareness. When is it too much about these chaos theories? So what I mean is, what are some of the potential risks or pitfalls that can happen if we exaggerate with this? Chaos is good in a corporate setting.
Oh, yes.
When is it too much?
So firstly, you do need a level of maturity in the team. There's emotional maturity, but so you could say ultimately it's emotional maturity. But if the team is immature, it's very risky. So that's the concept of setting up the environment for success takes more time. Because now the players, if you're playing a game, and the players in the team, they have their own chaotic flow. So it's not a flow, how would I say it? So they have their ability to consume the information, to develop a sense of clarity of self, will be lacking. So it can actually be not just a 20-year-old, it can be a 30-year-old, it can be a 40-year-old, but it comes down to that self-awareness. Actually, if you have very low self-awareness, your chaosness is very difficult to release, because you will flow in any direction, so whatever suits you, because you don't know who you are. Okay, so that doesn't mean you can't have anybody like that in your team. It's just if the majority are all like that. So that maturity and coming back to natural order, you need elders. If we want to talk about tribes, and tribes from Peru and tribes in Cyprus. So that natural order really matters. So you need the elders, who typically are older, who have got experience and the weight of experience. So they're not the operational heavy lifters. They're the ones that you go to soundboard, to say, oh, what about this? And I was thinking about that, because it's a chaotic environment. So we've given them the tools, we've given them the outcome that we want. This is the goal, this is the direction we're going for, this is what success looks like. Okay, go forth and do it. And manage all the different complicated variables, do it your way. Great, I'm going to go and do that. But I've never seen this before. I need some help. So I come back, I find an elder, and in Agile, those elders would be an elder in a particular capability. Or if you're following the Spotify theory, it would be a chapter. So you'd have product design engineering. Those are 3 different chapters. So you're going to find an elder in your specific capability to go and ask those questions, to say, can you help me with this? I've never done this or seen this before. How would you do it? And the elders assist. That's what they're doing. So in the absence of having all the right structures in place, your chaos can lead to your demise. But that structure is not it's not a forced, it's not the hierarchical structure. It's a structure, it's a structure of natural order. And you've got to work that out for especially if you're founder-led, don't follow every book, and get some information, and that's very interesting, but make it work for you and with your guiding principles if you are the founder. And so there is a nuance per organization, and that's what makes it really difficult, because in a world that we have today, how do you write down every possible permutation of this theory to make it applicable to your specific situation? You can't. So you have to have the ability to read into all the rules so that you can bend them to make it appropriate for you and for what you want. And that's why I always bring it back to clarity.
Something that is, it is an image that comes to my mind, in fact. This mix in leadership that you have clarified, in fact, that being immature is lack of self-awareness. But there is a mix between leaders saying, well, one, they believe that being immature is a state that cannot change. So you are immature, no matter what we do, you cannot change. So you are immature forever, basically. The other thing is the mix of immature with readiness, like readiness for a promotion. You can be ready for a promotion, but you can be super immature, and then you are going to be a failure. One part of your growth inside of the organization that is something is going to happen. And I think it is important to highlight that self-awareness can be built, but cannot be built with a one-day training where we write notes in a diary and we draw some hearts. It has to be progressive. And that, I totally agree. And I love your answer about it is the most risky part of a team when using this embracing uncertainty, this applying the chaos theory framework in a corporate setting, because there is a huge value if you apply this this principle, this framework that you started mentioning at the beginning, but you cannot have it without the basic is self-awareness. And then it means there is a certain level of investment, not always with money, having an expensive consultant or facilitator, but a path, a program that can be even developed in-house.
Yes, it can. When leaders come to me and they say, my team is it's in a mess, Maria. It's a mess. Can you fix them? And I say, well, can I fix you? Because the team is a reflection of you as the leader. And it even goes down to, depending on if the leader's open to it, but I will explain this concept using their nervous system. So I'll say, if you are jumpy, your team is jumpy. If you are calm, your team is calm. And often they don't get it. So I'll use an example of a tech delivery. So what happens when something goes wrong over a weekend? Do you lose your shit? Do you phone everybody and be like, you need to get to work and you need to? So I said, let me tell you exactly what's going on when you're not around. They are phoning each other and speaking to each other that way. There's total disrespect. There's no appreciation for others because however you see them, no, but I don't really show them that. I think it, but I don't show them that. And like, people aren't stupid. So if you don't want to create a program, that's totally fine. Just work on you. Just work on you and see the change in the team. And it does work. But not many leaders, not all leaders, many are actually open to it, but not all leaders enjoy that line of conversation with me. And I sometimes never hear from them again. And that's okay.
That's okay. That's the path that you have chosen. It is good. Now, let's imagine a crazy mental exercise that I want to do. Let's imagine that Satya Nadella comes to you, the Microsoft CEO, comes to you for advice. And he doesn't know how to balance this need of a structure and control with the desire to encourage more experimentation and risk-taking in Microsoft. What do you tell him? So where is the balance between a little bit of structure and control and experiment, risk-take, and fail a little bit?
Yeah.
Where is
I'd say to him, well, tell me what you want and why you want it. Always, always starting. Tell me what you want. What is the vision for Microsoft? And we would have a conversation about the vision. And I mostly question someone's vision for an organization until it feels like, does that make you wake up in the morning and go, fuck yes, I cannot wait to get out of this house and get to the office. I can't wait. Not every single day, but most days, as Steve Jobs' his quote goes. And I'm going to say, right, now tell me, how is that not happening? So the vision that you have, what are you seeing in the company that you feel is missing? Where are they not meeting what you want, what you expect? And we have a conversation about that. And then from there, we start understanding. So then the red flags start coming through. So I'm seeing that my executive team buy in, but their teams don't. So I'm like, well, tell me how you see that. What does that look like? Or the youngsters all believe, but the people that have been here with long tenure, they are terrible, Maria. They like, oh, they still hung up on 20 years ago and they won't move forward until. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And what actual work do you see them doing that's wrong? Okay, how have you tried to address it? Okay, definitely there's a transformation problem because they haven't been brought along on the journey, as an example. So it always comes down to what do you want and why? I never believe, I always say there's a process for that. There's a process for that. And I love the processes, but I will never add control because the more control, the less creativity and innovation. So the process is always with the individuals. So it's a process for, if it's somebody senior, they may need a process for communication. If it's somebody junior, they need a process for knowledge, gaining knowledge and skill. So there's a spectrum, but the process is, how do I get my state, my personal state or department state, into a state of knowing how to do something?
Yes.
That's what the process is for. Just how do I know how to do this? Because when I know how to do it, remember the birds in my TED talk?
Yes.
It went, what do we need to do? How do we do it? Do we believe we can? So the mission statement, that vision, that gives me the yay, we totally believe, we're in it. We did a weekend away. It was very expensive. Thank you, CEO of Microsoft. Amazing. We totally believe. Yeah, they got the best speakers. Presidents of the world came and joined us. It was so amazing. Okay. We believe. We love what we want and we understand why. So we know. But the process, oof, we don't know how to do it. So that is where you start building in the experience. You start building in the sense of, I know how to do this. And how do we do that? So it depends on who I'm dealing with and what's missing. So if I was dealing with an executive, a female client, difficulty with speaking up in meetings, difficulty expressing herself as a C-suite exec. I'll say, okay, so she's lacking confidence, but she's very smart. So she doesn't need a process to learn more. Definitely. She's got all the knowledge. Okay, so what does she need a process for? She needs a process for building up a sense of self. So what do? Wake up every morning and do a cold water immersion every day to have that absolute shock to the system, completely dysregulated, which is chaos, this physical chaos, deep breaths, and learning to self-regulate and getting out of the water and going, I'm a badass. I am such a badass. And that builds the sense of confidence. So I didn't say you need to go and do a course on speaking up in meetings and you need to go to an orator to teach you how to articulate your words. No, there's something happening inside you that's stopping you from doing that. What are we going to do? We're going to follow a process that makes you realize your power. So that's the kind of process that I'm looking at.
I have the impression, no, in fact, I have a wish. It's not an impression. Is that instead of companies spending fortunes into skill trainings, they should be building more programs that are meta skills, exactly what you what you just are just mentioning, building a mental process to reach a given outcome, so that people learns how to learn a new skill instead of
Yes.
teaching them that's the only way how to communicate.
Here's
That's
the answer. Mm.
be a leader, give feedback. By the way, for 20 years in corporation, I was using this famous sandwich, feedback sandwich, and now that dug into the depth of understanding behaviors, I know that the feedback sandwich is a piece of trash.
Bullshit.
Yep.
Everybody sees straight through you. And they're like, okay, so give me the ham, Maria. Just give me the ham. Oh, frustrating.
I love this. There is a little bit of these beliefs like that when you explain, for instance, to a senior leader that I'm going to do that. For instance, the example that you gave with the cold water, they will not believe that this is going to have an impact on people.
Mm.
And that's another wish that I have, is that people understand a little bit about the human psychology, how behaviors are changed, how we map routines, and by creating new routines, we break a little bit beliefs about ourselves, like the lack of
Yes.
confidence, like, and how simple is to, if you understand the rules of your brain, is to manipulate your brain in order to create a new belief, a new
Yes.
routine, a new pathway that is going to be anchored even more than the previous belief. I'm a woman, I cannot be a tech person, or
Yeah.
whatever belief there is
Yeah.
in society. It is difficult sometimes to convince people about it, Maria, by the way.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
So if you are able to find a route into the CEO or the C-suite execs or your wife, anybody that you're speaking to, it's to find the route into a metaphor or something that will help them see another side. Can you look at the same picture and see something else? Because what I see and what you see are different. And so if I can help you change your perspective, then your life is different. And so the conversations that I'll have with execs will be around, so you think that your team is shit. Is there another perspective? You think that your team keeps failing you. Is there another perspective? And then I help them see in just one conversation that if they change and when they change their perspective on an individual in their team, how their treatment of that person changes and how that will have a ripple effect to everybody else in the C-suite executive team. And just that small change could influence the butterfly effect, right? And the butterfly theory and chaos theory is just that one change has the potential of changing everybody in the organization. And it's a beautiful process to take them through to get them to understand that. And they're like, yes, 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 but I still don't believe you, Maria. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can still, they'll follow it, the narrative, and they can see it being maybe possibly true, but they still want to see some kind of proof. And so you must look for low-hanging fruit to help them get some result as quickly as possible.
Maria, this conversation is super interesting, at least for me. I love this combination of science, human behavior, and the wealth of experience that you have. The fact that you have been living the day-to-day of agile methodologies, because that maps a little bit your way of thinking about life. When I learn it, I also change not only my work life, but also my personal life. The way of looking at life is more than a process. For certain people, including me, it could be a way of living, and
lifestyle.
that's good. That's good. That's awesome. It's not only for the tech people. I wish that there was more departments applying it, using it in a day-to-day basis. Maria, how can people reach you out if they have more questions about your framework, more questions to reach you out, if you can help them become this agile butterfly in the
I really love your energy. And it's all about energy. So your energy and your state of being determines your perspective of life. That's what I mentioned earlier. We're going to talk about energy later. So I'd love people to reach out to me if they've been moved by our conversation, so that they can contact me on email. It's contact@mariapcarpenter.com. And maybe we can put the links at the bottom of this. That's okay with you, Ivan? And as well as
Yes,
my website, it's mariapcarpenter.com.
absolutely. I will put this
Yeah.
link. Plus, I think that there is a very good inspiration out of your TED Talk. So I'm going to put the
Thank
link to your
you.
TED Talk, definitely, because it was inspiring for me. So why cannot it
Yeah,
be
awesome.
for somebody else?
Yes, it can totally be. It can totally be. And also, I do share some of examples and metaphors on Instagram. That is my favorite social media channel at the moment. And that's
Mhm.
also Maria P. Carpenter.
I will put also the link. Maria, it was lovely to spend time with
Oh,
you.
it was lovely too.
It was really nice to have this synchronicity between our brains. I love it. Thank you very much, Maria, for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you, Ivan. Thanks for the service that you're offering the world. It's really lovely. Thank you.
My pleasure, Maria.
Okay, have a lovely evening.